Good evening, everybody. It is 5:30 on Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024, and this is the regular meeting of the Sandpoint City Council, now called to order in the council chambers at City Hall, 1123 West Lake Street in Sandpoint, Idaho. For the record, I'm Council President Deb Rule presiding. Mayor Jeremy Grimm is in attendance remotely. Also present are Councilors Justin Dick, Kyle Schreiber, Pam Duquette, and Rick Howarth. Under the city's adopted code of ethics and civility, as presiding officer, I am to identify law enforcement personnel serving as Sergeant at Arms for this evening's meeting. And tonight, I see back there, we have Police Chief Corey Kuhn with us. Okay, and then we are going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And in celebration of International Day of the Girl, we have some of our local Girl Scouts with us this evening who will lead us in the pledge. If everyone can please stand. When you're ready, girls. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Ma'am, can I just say just a few words?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilor Rule, Mayor Grimm, thank you for letting our Girl Scouts come here. I'm here with my COO, Renee. This is our favorite drive of all of our drives. We're housed out of Spokane, and this is our fourth time doing this, and we love coming here. It's just as you said, ma'am, this is celebrating Day of the Girl. It's next week on October 11th, set 12 years ago by the United Nations to recognize that the 1 billion girls in this world have a voice. So thank you for letting them have a voice. We appreciate it. Your Girl Scouts are doing awesome. Just a few days ago, we hit 7,000 total members between the adults. We have some great volunteers here and our Girl Scouts, which is the most we've been since 2013. So as a membership organization, we're on the rise. We finished out yesterday at 4,307 girls for the 2024 year. But here's the best news of all. You know who our 7,000th member was? It was an adult helper, troop leader up here, not troop leader, but a helper up here, Stacy Olson. So she was going to get this Build-A-Bear here to celebrate being lucky 7,000. So we love Sandpoint. Thank you very much for celebrating our girls. 39,000 boxes donated to our military last year. We left you some cookies here as parting gifts. I want to give your city clerk here a sun catcher. This is on my honor because Sandpoint has so much honor to it. Thank you for celebrating our girls every year. And the last piece of best news, girls, we're going to sell cookies next year at $5 a box still. Is that going to work out? Yeah. Yay. Only a quarter of councils in America are $5 a box, but it's because your Girl Scouts are so awesome, we can do that. So consumers, enjoy it. Enjoy the $5, but most importantly, celebrate your girl. They have a strong voice. Let's listen to it. Thank you, council, for all you do.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks for coming, girls. It's great to see you all here, and thanks for leading our pledge today. Okay, we're on to the announcements and reports section. Mr. Mayor, do you have any announcements today?
Thank you, Councilman Rule, and thank you for presiding in my absence. I assume you can all hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. Thank you. Nothing too major. I just wanted to bring you up to speed on a couple of things. The first is that staff and I have been working on an informational flyer for the 1% local option tax that we expect to go out very shortly to Sandpoint residents. And if you'd like to see a draft of that, Melissa, just get in touch with Melissa and she can share that with you. And then secondarily, I'm excited to announce that we have a on-site interview for a public works director next Tuesday. Cheryl and I did the preliminary interview last week, and really excited to have this candidate come up and take a tour of the town. So those are the interesting things happening in the city from my perspective this week. Other than that, just thank staff for preparing and presenting what's on the agenda tonight. Look forward to breaking any ties if necessary. Otherwise, I'll step back and let you do your thing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do council members have any announcements today?
No, Mr. President.
Yes.
My announcement is regarding something that happened at the last council meeting. I've been brushing up on my Robert's Rules of Order for the last couple weeks, and turns out that calling the question, which is the mechanism that the mayor used to prematurely end council discussion, is actually a motion that must be made and seconded and voted on. Not something that the presiding officer can unilaterally force onto council. And in fact, the presiding officer doesn't even have the ability to make a motion. So I believe that the proper remedy for that would have been to invalidate the vote and put it back onto this week's agenda. But I chose not to pursue that remedy because it would have basically forced a no vote, since we would have missed the deadline for the application. And I didn't feel right overriding the voices of my fellow councilors who voted in favor of it. I also don't think that the citizens of Sandpoint should miss out on funding for parks simply because the mayor misstepped in procedural error. And, you know, I'm not an expert in procedure either. I often make mistakes and need guidance. I think an important point is that perhaps someone should have stepped in and told the mayor that he shouldn't make that move. Nobody prompted the mayor to make that move. That was a decision he made all on his own to end council debate prematurely. And if that was the only issue, perhaps maybe just some education in parliamentary procedure would be enough to remedy it. But I see a lot of issues and what's developing to be a pattern of behavior. For example, the council was led to believe that the reason the Parks and Rec Commission was not consulted on that grant application was because they didn't know about it in time. I went back and watched the recording of that commission meeting, and very clearly the director spoke in that meeting right as he was telling the commission that they didn't have any funding for new parks projects. He mentions, oh, except for the grant that I'm applying for to finish Traverse Park. So clearly the city knew about that grant in advance and had already made the decision on how they would spend that money without consulting the Parks and Rec Commission. What's more concerning, I think, is that the city did reach out to one group of constituents, and that happens to be the director's former employer. And, you know, perhaps that doesn't seem like a very big deal because we all know Jason, we're all supporters of POP, and how could you possibly not want free money for our parks? But I think all of those muddy the waters a bit. So I'd like to paint a hypothetical to emphasize the gravity of the situation. Let's say we do find a public works director and they're highly qualified because they've spent several years working for a big construction company on projects like our sewer plant. And let's say that public works director gets information about state funding, and instead of bringing that information to the steering committee, that public works director takes that information to their former employer so that the construction company can benefit from that information. That's not something that I'm willing to abide, and I think that behavior needs to stop. And along with the pattern of behavior of bringing incomplete bid packages, missing critical components to mask the true cost of a project, and change orders for work that's already been completed, and now mayor who's ending council debate only to cast the tie-breaking vote. I would ask, please, can we just follow the proper procedure from now on? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councilman Schreiber. I would suggest that you sit with law and the mayor and further that discussion. And if you have more to bring forward to us, then please do.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll now yield the floor to staff for some quick reports from the department heads, if anybody has anything to say today.
Good evening. Real quick from Sandpoint Fire Department, this next, not this Friday, but next Friday is going to be our open house. I just want to remind 2 to 5. Just a lot of activities, a lot of fire prevention stuff going on over at the fire station. So just want to remind everybody and get that out. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, all right.
Yeah, Councilwoman Rule, I have an update for you. This is Jason Welker, Community Planning and Development Director.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Welker, yes, thank you very much.
Okay, good evening, Council. First of all, sorry I couldn't join you tonight. I am in Moscow, Idaho tonight for the American Planning Association Idaho Chapter Annual Conference with our City Planner, Bill Dean. We arrived this afternoon, spent the afternoon in some workshop sessions with planners from around the state, and we'll be here through Friday for some additional professional development and training with our cohorts from all over Idaho. First, I'm going to start with a staffing update in the CPD department for you. We are very sad to say goodbye to our city assistant planner, Radhika Bipin, who joined us only 3 months ago. Radhika is returning to join her family in India, who is facing some health emergencies that she is being called back to help provide support for. So that was an unexpected resignation just a couple of weeks ago, but we posted her position and had 5 qualified applicants within a week. We interviewed 4 of them, and we are extremely excited to announce that we have offered the new assistant planner role to Katie Keeney, who already works for the city of Sandpoint. She's the engineering technician in the Public Works Department. She's been here for about 6 months. Katie's a Sandpoint native, born and raised, graduated Sandpoint High School. After getting her education in Western Washington, she came back to the area and worked for Glahey and Associates, a local planning firm, as a planner, actually. Started and worked her way up into the planning position there before joining city staff earlier this year. She was excited to apply for the assistant planner role. And despite interviewing 4 extremely qualified candidates, many with lots of planning experience, Katie stood out from the other applicants. And myself, Bill, and Cheryl we're super excited to offer that position just earlier this week. So Katie will be joining us starting, I assume, next week or shortly after to fill in for Radhika's now almost vacant position. If you happen to make it to City Hall in the next couple of days, Radhika's last day is Friday. She's been an awesome, fast learner, invaluable member of the planning team for the last 3 months. So we're really sad to see her go, but we understand that family comes first. So that's our staffing update. I'll give you an update on what's going on at Traverse Park. We have an important announcement about the parking lot. The concrete work is underway in front of the building. If you've been by in the last couple of days, you've seen Interstate, a local firm, pouring concrete for curbs and the covered patio underneath the canopy. That 4,000 square foot patio is now poured. And starting tomorrow, the concrete team will make their way into the playground to pour all of the curbs for the pathways within the playground, the curbs that surround the different play areas within the playground, and that fire lane that goes all the way around the building. Concrete work is going to just be a few more days, actually. And then starting October 14th, so just 2 weeks from Monday, I guess. So yeah, a week from this coming Monday, we're going to have to close the parking lot entirely for about 10 days. And that is for the complete regrading and resurfacing of the parking lot that you approved in a previous meeting. Woods, another local firm, will be doing all that work. In addition to surfacing the parking lot, they're going to do the fire lane all the way around the James E. Russell Sports Center and repave the what is currently the gravel walking trail around the outdoor tennis courts. So because of the scope of that paving project, the entire south end of Traverse Park is basically going to be closed with the exception of the Concrete Lake Skate Park. That will still be accessible by kids on skateboards and scooters from the Pine Street sidewalk. So just a public announcement there. Starting a week from Monday, we're going to have about a 10-day closure of the south end of the park. It's actually a good time of year because there's not many local sports groups that are using the park, and the tennis season is wrapped up for the year at that point as well. The next item I want to update you on is on September 21st, we had a really successful volunteer day at the park. We had about a dozen Little League and travel baseball players join us with their parents We were able to complete a total reconstruction of Field 3, which up to that point was the worst ball field out of the 4 ball fields at Traverse Park. It was about an 18-inch difference between third base and home plate. That has now been completely resurfaced. We had around $4,000 of trucking services donated by Peak Sand and Gravel. Huge thanks and shout out to Mike Peak for that donation. And I was really proud of that. I came out and spent the morning raking dirt with the ball field users, and it turned out beautiful. So if you're walking around Traverse, check out Field 3. It looks like new. It's the best field in the park now. Finally, 2 recreation updates for you. On this weekend, we're going to start selling memberships for the James E. Russell Sports Center. Our recreation team has gotten the membership portal up on our rec software site, and we are working on flyers. I will be attending the Sandpoint Tennis Association annual meeting on Sunday and the Panhandle Pickleball Club annual meeting on Monday, handing out flyers. And we've already gotten so many inquiries from people wanting to know how they can get memberships for the sports facility. So we're excited to be offering those about 7 weeks before we plan to open for the first time. Finally, in the rec division, we have our first non-school day camp this Friday at Community Hall. This was an initiative launched by Katie Bradbury, our recreation services superintendent, to try to provide some recreation programming for kids on those days where teachers are at work, but the kids aren't, and all the parents are. So this will be the first of about 10 or 11 of those that we offer throughout the year. The first couple will be at the Community Hall on First Avenue, but after Thanksgiving, those will move into the community room at the James E. Russell Sports Center, and we will be able, of course, to integrate indoor programming on the court surfaces in the rec community room there. So just another great way that the James E. Russell Sports Center is going to be serving our community through these non-school day programs offered by Katie and our rec team. So that's it for me. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Any questions for Mr. Welker?
Mr. President.
Yes.
Hey, Jason, it's Kyle. I see on our agenda on the consent calendar, we have an agreement with Jacobs Engineering for extending the services to fill in gaps in our staffing in the planning department.
Yep.
Is that in addition to this new employee you just mentioned?
Yeah, in fact, so we're not creating a new position in the planning department. This is Radika's departure and Katie sliding into her position. Part of the need for Darren and Jacob's continued contract is just the backlog of current planning projects that we have. When I say current planning, I mean like literally building permits that are where we're processing internally, the short plats, the lot line adjustments, things like that. Not the big projects like the planned unit developments and the conditional use permits. That said, we do have a couple planned unit developments and conditional use permits that are early in the pipeline right now. So those are the projects that Darren is going to be assisting us with through the end of January is what we're looking at right now. So just because our planning team is so small, we haven't had a planning admin for a few weeks now. We have our new planning admin starting on October 26th. A lot of the day-to-day planning stuff is being done by Bill and Radika right now, and Bill and Katie going forward. So having Darren on our team, he's been part of the team for almost a year now. Having him stay on that team for a few more months is going to be super valuable just to make sure we can bring those bigger projects like the CUPs to the Planning and Zoning Commission in a timely manner to make sure that, you know, those larger scale developments in town are not just falling to the wayside as we stay on top of the day-to-day planning efforts within the building department with the code compliance reviews of the applications that come through the door every day. So yeah, this was Bill's request. He and Darren make a great team. Darren's gonna stick with us for a couple more months just to get some of those bigger projects across the finish line.
Thanks for that explanation.
Yep.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Welker. And any more?
Thank you. Have a good meeting.
You're welcome. Okay, I guess we're on to public. Right? Did you have a department update? You got up at one point.
Yeah, just quick Public Works, Brandon Stagland. We did a final walkthrough on the Fur Street repaving project today. That construction is almost entirely complete. All the traffic control's been removed, if you've noticed. So just a couple of maybe some very minor last minute things to finalize on that before we close it out. So I'm personally very happy about that as somebody who lives on the north end of town.
Those cross streets off of Fur running north-south are now no longer blocked off. So that's great. And, Pine and Fifth project and the Boyer and Chestnut water main project are also moving along. So trying to get all that wrapped up before asphalt plants close. So that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. We will move on to public comment. Next, we'll proceed with the public comment portion of the meeting. If you wish to speak and haven't yet completed a sign-up form, please do so and hand to a staff member at the back of the room. If you would like to speak on any item included in this evening's agenda, now is your opportunity to do so. For purposes of general public forum, you are also welcome to comment on any topic pertinent to the city that is not included on the agenda. Those attending remotely who wish to speak, you may raise your hand on Zoom at this time. I would like to make everyone aware that the city does have a policy on public meeting decorum. The rules are posted here in the chambers at the entrance doors. In summary, I would ask that everyone please be pleasant and respectful, not make derogatory statements about others, including city staff, not be boisterous and disruptive, no calling out, clapping, or holding up signs. Please note that council cannot take testimony on any planning-related matter outside of an official public meeting. Hearing, I'm sorry. Public comment time is for comments only. No questions or debate is allowed. You are welcome to contact the mayor during regular business hours if you have any questions or concerns. Again, this is your opportunity to speak on any item on the agenda or any item of a general nature relevant to the city of Sandpoint. This is the only public comment time that will be offered this evening. When it is your turn to speak, please state your name and whether you reside in Sandpoint city limits. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes. Madam Clerk, has anyone signed up to speak during the public comment time?
Yes, Madam President. Gottfried Taubert.
You may come forward and use the mic.
I'm Dr. Tabert. I'm from Tabert Custom Homes. We're a local builder. And I understand that.
Excuse me, Mr. Tabor, do you reside in the city? of
Yes, I do. I reside in the
thank you.
city limits. I want to put some comment in regarding the enough fees. I understand that they're talking about maybe changing them. So we used to build, I'm just building a fourplex here in at Culver Crossing. And I had to write a check for $80,000 because it's a fourplex upfront, right, before I even start. I would like to see that the enough fees are paid maybe when the final occupancy permit and final occupancy is given to the home, or when the water is hooked up, to delay the enough fees to the end of the project versus fronting it. And especially, if you have to finance your thing, you've got to finance $80,000. That's a lot of money that takes up front.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Sir? Okay, thank you. It's not a time for debate, but we do take your comments. We hear them and move forward. And there'll be more discussion and a presentation on exactly what those enough changes are going to be if the council approves them.
Yeah, I think that would be really beneficial for a builder or for everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, is there anyone else?
One moment, Madam President. Or later. Okay. Oh, would you?
When I see that.
Me too. It's music.
Wow, that is the worst handwriting ever. That's okay. Unless I want your for you. I'm just gonna say good luck.
That's right. Thank you. Brent
Baker.
Madam President, Brent Baker.
Thank you. I just thought since it seems so quiet tonight, I'd hop up, and there being a lack of a parliamentarian present.
Mr. Baker.
Yes.
Could you state, please, for the record, whether you are a resident of the city of?
I'm sorry, I am not. I work in the city, but do not live in the city. Just addressing Counselor Schreiber's earlier comment regarding Robert's rules, having served on many boards over the years. He's right. Technically, just for clarification for the future, the call for the question is one of the most misunderstood components. Thinking, I've been on a lot of boards where people thought like anytime anybody calls for it, you get to end debate, which is absolutely not true. And so it will end debate if the chair determines that there's unanimous consent to move on, enough has been discussed, and the board can vote then the meeting can move ahead and suspend further debate and just simply have the vote. But if anybody objects and thinks it needs more discussion, any one member, then it has to be treated like an ordinary motion. So then there requires to be, the chairman needs to call for a second. And if there is no second, then it dies. But if there is a second, then it requires a 2/3 majority to make sure that there's adequate discussion. So if there's not an establishment, which can be informal, of unanimous consent, then it needs a second and a 2/3 vote. Just offering that.
Thank you for your comments. Madam Clerk, is there anyone else?
Madam President, I'll give just a moment. There is a member of the public attending online. Carrie, if you wanted to speak on any item on the agenda, this is the time for that public comment. And it looks like maybe she's just listening in, so I have no other signups for public comment this evening, Madam President.
Thank you. That will conclude the public comment portion of this evening's meeting. And we'll move on to the consent calendar. For the record, the total amount of bills is $1,450,050.40 for regular payables. Council, are there any questions or items you wish to remove from the consent calendar? Okay, then I believe I will entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved. Second.
Okay, this will be a roll call vote.
Counselor Howarth,
Yes.
Counselor Schreiber,
Yes.
Counselor Duquette,
Yes.
Counselor Dick,
Yes.
Counselor Rule.
Yes.
Madam President, motion passes.
Thank you. And that will move us on to new business. Next is an ordinance that proposes to amend City Code Title 7, Chapter 6 and 7 pertaining to new user facility fees or NUFs, along with two accompanying resolutions that would make the appropriate amendments to the water and sewer rules and regulations. I will now yield the floor to Civil Engineer Brandon Stagland.
Thank you. Okay, so these are I'm gonna do a presentation on all three of those on new business all at once here, because they're sort of interrelated. They will require, I believe, 3 separate votes or to address them. So this is about the timing of new user facility fees. So new user facility fees are what we charge water and sewer users when they become new customers for new development. And this is not about the cost of them or the amount, it's just about when you pay them. So all three of these items are related to when they're required to pay those fees. So the first proposal that we're bringing forward here is to change blanket timing of when the new user facility fees, or NUFs as we call them, when they need to be paid. And the second one is to eliminate a allowance in the code that says that large scale developments can defer their NUF payments over a period of 5 years, with the city basically making payments to the city. So the first proposal regarding the overall timing of when you pay the NUFs Right now, what the code says is that the NUF needs to be paid at the time of building permit. So when we issue the building permit, basically before you start construction on anything, a lot of times that could be a year or more before they actually turn water on and start using water. What the proposal presented right now is to change that to just say you don't have to pay the NUFs until we turn water on and you start actually making impacts to our system. So these are the specific code sections that would be modified, and these are the proposed red line changes. Basically what I just described, changing it from at the time of building permit to the time when water service is activated. The benefits to this is that, as we heard in public comment, you don't have to come up with all of the NUFs at the beginning of the project. I've actually heard anecdotally from people that are trying to build very small projects like ADUs specifically, that having to come up with a lot of fees up front is prohibitive to them, to getting started on the project, building it out, coming up with the money, and then getting it completed. I will also want to point out that we also serve water obviously outside the city limits, in the city of Kootenai and in the city of Ponderay and parts of unincorporated Bonner County. In those cases, we don't control the building permit process, so we already don't collect the NUF fees until we go out to turn water on, because oftentimes that's the first interaction we have with the developer or a home builder is, hey, I built this house out here. There's a water service that was already stubbed out to the lot 20 years ago. We want to install a meter and turn water on. And so we collect the fees, make sure that they're doing everything they need to do, and then go out and turn their water on and start a water account with them. So I think equitability, this would just treat all users the same throughout the whole system, regardless of whether they live in the city of Sandpoint. And then also it would provide some flexibility for projects. So for phased projects especially, there's a lot of cases where home builders, maybe they want to pull building permits for 4 houses right in a row, and they want to get started on the foundations, but they're going to build and finalize one house at a time. Turn water on, get it finished, maybe sell it or rent it, and then move on to the next one. This would prevent them from having to come up with the new user fees at the time they pull the building permits. The downside would mostly just be that we're collecting the revenue at a different time. Although I would say this, the impact to our system does not happen until they actually start using water or discharging sewer to our system. So collecting the fees at the time of building permit versus collecting them at the time we turn water on, there really isn't a change to how that impacts our system. So that was the first proposal. You'd see in your packet the actual official proposed code change. The second one is sort of related, but there's a provision not in our code, but in our water rules and regulations and our sewer rules and regulations, which were last updated by ordinance by council in 2023. But I believe this provision has been in those rules for longer than that. Obviously, it allows large scale developments. Basically, if you have new user fees greater than $100,000 for a project, you can pay the new user fees over the period of 5 years. And essentially what that is they go to our accounting department and set up a payment plan, and they pay, interest plus principal over the period of 5 years. And there's an amortization schedule, and our accounting department has to track it. And it's essentially like a car payment or a mortgage that this developer pays. So I would say effectively we're acting like a bank. We're loaning people money. The sewer rules specifically also allow kind of a related provision. We had an item in there that said if you are low to moderate income, you get a reduced NUF fee, and you also have the option of paying that back over a period of 10 years. And then it also says that if you are on a septic system, in order to encourage people to get off of septic in the city limits and connect to our city wastewater treatment plant, you're also allowed a 10-year extended payment plan, sort of as an incentive to do that. What this proposed change would be to eliminate it for large-scale developments above $100,000 NUFs, but leave the provision in there related to basically single-family homeowners on septic systems, because that's not really what we're talking about here. So I think there's a lot of pros. You know, the difference between paying when I was talking about in the first provision or the first proposal, you know, the difference between paying it at the time of building permit and the time of paying it when we turn water on is not that big of a deal. The difference between getting enough fee upfront for $100,000 or $200,000 for a large development versus getting the full amount 5 years later, I think affects the cash flow of our utility fund. It also, the administrative burden of tracking these payment plans, particularly on the accounting department, is significant, I would say. You know, they have to send a notice out like you get for your mortgage every month saying, hey, you know, time to pay your bill. It also, you know, I would say that it gets rid of some financial risk for the possibility that we're having to let people default on it. If they don't pay it, then we have to track them down. We have to explore avenues of how we're going to actually make them pay it. Again, financial equity, it, you know, it requires everybody to basically pay in full. It doesn't, you know, everybody, the new user fees are set based on a rate study that the city completed. So it's based on actual science and data. And it's based on, for water, it's based on the size of the meter that you install. So if you do a small 3/4 inch meter for a single family house, it's a small enough payment. If you do a large meter for a large development, it's a large enough payment. This requires everybody who is required to contribute enoughs to pay them at the same time. Doesn't give an additional break to large scale developers. The cons would be that requiring upfront payment for large enoughs could discourage new developments. It could encourage slowdown in those developments because, you know, they have to run the numbers before they do a project. And if they realize they have to come up with money, a large amount of money, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars up front, it may be cost prohibitive. It provides financial flexibility for large developments. So this is the summary. Proposal 1, change the timing of the NUF codes or the NUF fees need to be paid, not at the time of building permit, but at the time we turn water on. And the second one is to get rid of payment plans for large scale developments. So that's kind of the end of my presentation. If I'm gonna move on to discussion for those items.
Okay, and just ask council if they have any questions for Brandon at this point.
Mr. President.
Yes, Councilman Schreiber.
I'm sure you've thought this through, but the only thing that occurred to me, is there ever a situation where we start expanding capacity for utilities prior to the development finishing? And I'm obviously picturing a very large development, but has that ever happened? Would that ever happen? Is there a situation where that would be a problem?
Help me understand what the so capacity for utilities. Are you talking about the distribution system, like the pipes, or are you talking about the wastewater treatment plant and the water treatment plant, or kind of?
Yeah, I guess what I'm picturing in my brain would be let's say we put in a very large apartment complex and the sewer pipes downstream from that aren't big enough to accommodate that. So before we could allow them to start using that pipe, we would have to expand the system. Is that a situation that actually happens, or am I just making up something in my head here?
I haven't seen that happen yet. Certainly that's part of the discussion always when I do engineering review of projects is, sewer, stormwater, water.
Mhm.
Staff reviews, reviews the capacity of the system before we let them connect. So no, I don't think that that's really relevant. So I don't know if that, I don't know if that answers it. No.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Brandon, if I may, Kyle, I think what you're trying to ask, I guess I would point out that Sandpoint is just under 5 square miles and most of Sandpoint is already developed. So the thought of having a mass complex that would overburden the sewer part of the system, I don't think can really happen. And I think we've also built out enough water capacity for what the city limits are. I don't know if that helps you understand that piece or not, but.
Yeah, it does, thanks.
so I will say that this doesn't happen a lot in city limits, which I think is probably where our heads are at right now. Outside the city of Sandpoint, we have some pressure issues in the northern outreaches of our water system specifically. Before we tell somebody that they're going to become a new customer to our water system, in some cases, if the development is large enough, we actually require that they pay to extend a larger water main. So in other words, if they're proposing a building that requires fire flow and the system in that part adjacent to them that the city owns is not adequate to provide the fire flow that's required by their building department, we require as a condition of becoming a customer that they sometimes, and this has happened, pretty frequently, they have to do water main extension that they pay for that we then take ownership over. Sometimes upsizing a main from a 6-inch to an 8-inch to a 10-inch, and that happens before they become a customer. So correct. And so it's that's kind of a separate thing from the NUF fees that goes into the the utility fund.
That was gonna be my question. Yeah, that sounds like that's paid for separately from this fee.
Correct.
Thanks.
Madam President,
Yes,
I do have a question out of curiosity, I guess. People with septics, are they mostly Ponderay and Kootenai?
So we don't serve sewer outside of our city limits.
Just water?
Just water. I don't know how many, I probably should, but I don't know how many septic systems we have within the city limits, but
You
I'm
don't
not
know?
aware of any specifically.
Because you
I know
mentioned,
that there's probably a small handful of them. That's why we were hoping to keep this provision in place for changing over to septic, because it's a kind of a separate discussion.
okay, yeah, just since you mentioned it, I wasn't aware that there were.
I don't know a specific example, but I know there's some out there.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
Council President. I have a few questions. Brandon,
Yes.
hi.
please.
As I look at these proposals, proposal 1 seems very valid. I mean, it seems punitive to the new developer to charge those long before they ever use the service. So that one, I think, to me makes perfect sense. Proposal 2, I'm still struggling a bit with. It feels punitive to the big developers. Now, again, I don't know how many more big developers are going to be in the city of Sandpoint. There's not that much undeveloped land, but do you have any data that says how many developers today are using the option to pay over time? Because part of your argument was, hey, it's an administrative burden, and 1 does not sound like an administrative burden to me.
Speak a little bit.
Please.
Well, what I wanted to bring up, one is that we're not a bank and we do not do any type of like credit checks to make sure these are actually valid, credible, payers. We don't have the ability to do that. So to me, we are not a bank. We don't act like a bank, and we're like acting like a bank in this case. So all we're doing is asking them to go out and get a loan and pay us, and then they pay a bank back is what we're doing. What we do right now is if someone doesn't pay, we have to roll it onto their tax roll, and we don't see that for another 3 years. So
But you're collecting interest and fees.
no, if once it goes on the bankroll or our tax rolls, we do not. No. I mean, they have to pay that with the original ones, but we don't collect any more than what's initially done, so.
And I'll add to that, when we started to review these code sections to bring potential changes forward, we had significant concern as legal counsel with the legality of offering this extended period of time for payment without having a robust defined policy in place as to who might be eligible for that and how they would meet certain state criteria to be eligible for that.
Thank you. My second question was kind of the opposite of my first, was have there been any developments that didn't move forward because of enough fees being?
It's hard to say. It's hard
Elective.
to say, projects that wouldn't move forward. Often in the planning, building and engineering side for private development, we get a pre-application meeting for somebody who's just kind of giving us preliminary plans, and then we never hear anything again. They don't call us back and say, hey, we didn't go forward with this project because of this, this, and this. So, I don't know if I could give any specific examples.
Okay, thank you, Brandon.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, and Brandon, you've answered the majority of my questions, so I have none either. I will now ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Sandpoint, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, amending Sandpoint City Code Title 7, Chapter 6, Section 7, payment of new user facility fee, and Title 7, Chapter 7, Section 12A, fees, providing for severability and providing for publication and an effective date.
I would entertain a motion that the ordinance pass its first reading by title only and summary is approved. This will be I need a
moved.
second.
No.
Second and first. There we go. Okay, I think we got one.
Who was the
Justin
second,
and
please?
Pam.
Thank you.
This will be a roll call vote.
Counselor Schreiber,
Yes.
Counselor Rule,
Yes.
Counselor Duquette,
Yes.
Counselor Howarth,
Yes.
Counselor Dick.
Yes.
The ordinance has passed its first reading by title only and the summary is approved. I would entertain a motion that the rules requiring 3 separate readings, once in the ordinance's entirety, be suspended and that the ordinance pass its second and third readings under suspension of the rules. So moved.
Second.
Pam was first, Justin was second. This will be a roll call vote.
Counselor Schreiber,
Yes.
Counselor Rule,
Yes.
Counselor Dick,
Yes.
Counselor Howarth,
Yes.
Counselor Duquette.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes and the ordinance is considered read, passed, and adopted under suspension of the rules. It will become effective following publication of the summary in the newspaper. And now we are on to the next thing. Following that approval, I will now entertain a motion to approve the resolution amending City of Sandpoint water rules and regulations to eliminate extended payment plans for NUFs.
So moved.
Second.
This will be a roll call vote.
Counselor Dick,
Yes.
Counselor Duquette,
Yes.
Counselor Schreiber,
Yes.
Counselor Rule,
Yes.
Counselor Howarth.
Yes.
Madam President, motion passes.
Thank you very much. And for our final item, I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution amending City of Sandpoint sewer rules and regulations. So moved.
Second.
This will be a roll call vote.
Counselor Dick,
Yes.
Counselor Duquette,
Yes.
Counselor Schreiber,
Yes.
Counselor Rule,
Yes.
Counselor Howarth.
Yes.
Madam President, motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much. And with nothing further on the agenda, we will adjourn. And the time is 6:20.